Hey everyone, this is Prince from Desi Programmer. Welcome back to another exciting video, and in this video we are going to talk about this expense manager app created using Flutter. And in this app we are going to use charts and a local database to complete everything that we need. So this is what the app is going to look like. First you have to enter your name that you want me or basically the app to call you. Let's say I'm entering Prince, then we click on let's start, and right now we don't have any data. So I can basically click on this button and I can start adding some data. Let's say I have $1000 and I just got it from client A. It was an income on 22nd December. That's today's date. Let's click on add, and now I have a balance of 100 rupees. So the income is 100 and expense is 1000. Now let's say I went to Starbucks. I had a coffee. So now I had a transaction of 200. So we have a transaction. I can add this as an expense and I can select the date as I want. Let's say on 15th or all right, 14th. Let's click OK and let's click add. Now I have an expense of 100, income of 1000, expense of 200. And right now we don't have enough data to render a chart because I need more than one expense to render a chart accordingly. So let's do that. We click on this again and I say, all right, I went to watch the movie. So 600, and that's going to be No Way Home. It's an expense and I did this on 17th. Let's click on OK. Let's click on add, and now I have this chart. So on 14th I spent 200, on 17th I spent 600, and these are the expenses that you can see. Again, my total balance right now is 200. You can keep doing this. I think you understand the point. Add 500 more, it's an expense. And let's say I did this on 6th of this month. Let's click add, and now it's sorted. It's all looking nice. Also you can change month, so you can see recent monthly transactions. So on December this is my balance. On November I have nothing. So let's click on add, and let's say I get 2000 in November. It was an income, but instead of 22nd December I say it was on 10th November. Let's click on add, and now in November I have 2000. Let's switch this, and this will be updated accordingly. And here you can also delete these. So let's say I don't want to delete this expense of 200. I put this there by mistake. I realized later that hey, my friend actually paid for the coffee. So I will long click on this. If you just press on this, it says long press to delete. So I long press and it says, hey, do you want to delete this record? I'll click on delete, and you see everything is adjusted accordingly. Now my total balance is just minus 100, and this is my graph. So that's what we're going to build in this video right now. Now for those of you who already know, I have already uploaded kind of a version of this project earlier, and I really wanted to upload like a V2 where I do only those things that are not there. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. We are going to add a couple of features, and let's see how this is going to look. I already tried to record the same video twice and there was some problem each time. So this is basically the last time I'm trying to do this. Whatever comes out of this, I'm just going to post that on YouTube. Well, so let's get started, and this is the application that we have right now. It says no values found because I just ran it. So if you really want the same source code, just go to my GitHub profile, and here you see this money manager YouTube 01. So whatever we made in the first version, I have placed the source code as it is. You can just download this, and this is where I'm going to edit everything and make sure that it matches this version, where we basically add all these things and fix couple of issues that we need to. So with this app up and running, now we need to add a couple of things. For example, this debug show check mode banner, let's set that to false. So first thing first, we actually need to add a splash screen here. I'll say splash dot dot, and this will be a splash screen. And since adding a splash screen is not something very tough, I'm just going to skip the entire part, because since last 2 times I have been wasting enough time to add the splash screen, it was not giving any good result. So we just have a material dot dot, okay. Then we have a stateful visit, which is basically splash. Let's save it, and here we return a scaffold with an app bar which height is 0. The reason why I have to put this app bar with a toolbar height of 0 is because I want this color on this notification bar. Then I have set the background color to a specific color. In the body we have a center, we have this icon, and this container decoration will just give a little border and colored border around the icon. So let's save this. This is what we have right now. Obviously this is not what I want to do from a splash screen. The splash screen is basically responsible to check if I have a couple of settings turned on or off. If the settings are on, it will act accordingly. So for example, if there is no name, it will ask for the name. If you have enabled fingerprint auth, it will first ask you to identify yourself. So this is my splash screen. Looks pretty good to me. So again, now to add name, we obviously need a page where you can add name. So in the pages itself, I'm going to add another page, and let's say that this is add underscore name dot dot. and this is my ad name right here. Now in my ad name, I'm first going to go to my splash screen. I'm going to copy everything and I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to rename this. So I will say change all occurrences, and this will be ad name. Let's save this. So this looks pretty good to me. The reason, the only difference here is that I want this to be wrapped with a column so that we can have a text field here. Let's actually save this. Instead of calling splash screen from here, let's just call ad name so that we can see the output here, and this is how it looks. Well, moving forward, after this, in this column, after this center, what I want here is a text field, and I want to give this some homogeneous styling. I'll talk about this styling later. Right now, let's just put some text here which will say what should we call you, and then we will have some sized box later on. What I have right here is a text form field. Actually, even text field will do, and there, let's save this. And this is how it looks. Not something that I want, don't worry, we are going to change that later on. First of all, both of these places we are going to have a sized box with a height of 12. You'll see that I'm using 12 as a value everywhere, okay, whether it's radius or anything. So that's why I'm setting it up to 12 right here too. Next thing here in the text field is that I want to actually wrap this up with a container. Okay, let's save this. And you see this is styling that I have for this container. I'm going to copy this decoration. All right, copy this and let's just paste it here. Let's save it, and this is how it looks right now. Okay, looks all good. I just don't want this border. Okay, so for that I have to go to my text field, and here we have decoration, which is basically our input decoration. Now in this input decoration, I'm going to set up the hint text to be, let's say, your name, but the border I don't want that, so I'm going to say border, which will be input border dot none. Let's save this, and now we don't have any border. But this doesn't really look very good, right? We want some spacing, some padding right here. We're going to grab this container and we're going to say that, hey, you have some padding, which will be as in sex dot symmetric. So vertically, I'm going to give this a padding of 8, and horizontally, I'm going to give this a padding of, let's say, some 16. Okay, and now this is going to look really nice. Okay, you can just enter your name right here. Also, I'm going to give this a couple more styling. For example, we will have a text style that will make the text look bigger. So we have a font size of some 20.0, and then when you add something, we need to assign that to your name. So for that we need a variable, but before that we'll move forward, and here you see we have this text which says what should we call you. I'm going to give this some styling, so the text line will be right and the font size will be 24. Okay, looks pretty good to me. Let's move up and let's try to give this a variable. So we have a string name which is empty by default. You can even make this null and check if the string is not null, or you can make this empty and check if the string is not empty. I'm putting it null right now. Now here in this column, to make sure that everything look good, I want the main axis alignment to be main axis alignment dot center, and I want the cross axis alignment to be cross axis alignment dot start. Sorry. Let's save this, and this is how it looks now. Okay, this is something that I want here in the beginning, so I'll simply remove this center here, and now it will be here, and I can give this some padding so that it looks good. So we'll give this a padding and the value will be 12, and let's just save this now, and this is my form. I think it looks pretty good right now. Okay, so what I want right here is to add this name, and for that we are already using a database called, we're already using a local database of Hive, right? But that's not what I'm going to use right here. I want to use another database, another local DB to store the data. We are using Hive to store our transaction data, and that's what I want that to do. We're going to use shared preferences to store this local data. So for that, what we have to do is basically use Control-Shift-P. I'm using this PubSpec assist, which basically helps me with easily adding any dependency. I will simply add shared preferences here, hit enter, and this will install the latest shared preferences. Okay, as you can see, this is being done. I have to stop this and run the program again. Well, so now that we have added shared preferences, I'm going to go back to my db helper dot, and here I need a couple more functions to add stuff to my shared preferences. So here I have a shared preference instance. Actually, we don't get an instance, so I'm basically saying we have late shared preferences, which will be preferences. Let's save this. So I need, again, just as I said, I need a couple of functions here. So we have add name, Add name will take a string which will be name. Okay, this will be asynchronous. And in add name, I'm going to say that preferences, it's going to be await share preferences dot get instance. And once we have an instance, all that I have to do is preferences dot set string. So my name is obviously going to be a string. The key is going to be name, and the value is going to be this name that we are going to provide to this function. In the same way, we are going to have get name. In get name, again, I don't need anything. The only thing that I need is this preferences, and here I have to simply say return preferences dot get string, and the key will be name. All right, easy peasy. So we have add name, we have get name. Add name will basically add a name, get name will grab me the name that we have just added. Save this. Let's go back to add name, and here we need the db helper instance. So we have db helper, and there you go. Now let's come down here. So we have this everything container and everything. Let's copy the sized box up from here and let's paste it here. We have an elevated button here. So elevated button, on press we are going to add a name. The child is basically going to be text that says next. Okay, let's save, and come on, let's save this, and there we have this next button. I'm going to wrap this with a sized box. Okay, sized box will give me a height. Okay, so I'm going to set this height to be 50. You will see button looks better. I'm going to set the width to double dot max finite, so it will basically, you know, all this length. Then I'm going to grab this style and I'm going to paste this for my text. Save this, looks pretty good to me. And I'm going to wrap this text with a row. Now in my row, after this text, I have a sized box with a width of, let's say, 6.0, and then I have an icon which will be icons dot, let's say, next. So not next plan, where is next arrow? This looks good. Let's save this, and there it says next. So in my row, I have to basically say that the main axis alignment is going to be main axis alignment dot center. Let's save this, and now we have a next button. So once you tap on this button, what we have to do is that we have to check if there is a name. So check if there is a valid name. Valid name is basically anything that's not empty. So all that I'm going to do is that I'm going to check if name dot is not empty. But before that, I have to make sure that here we have an on changed, and every time something is changed here, we're going to set that to name. So name is equal to this particular value. So if the name is not empty, I'm going to say, you know, add to database and then move to home page. Else if the name is empty, then we have to, you know, like show some error. Now if the name is empty, I'm going to source a snack bar, and assuming that you know how to show a snack bar, I'm simply going to paste this code here. But if the name is not empty, we are going to add this to database. Let's save this. Let's click on next, and here we have this snack bar that says, hey, please enter name. Click on OK, and we are good. So to add to a database, all that we need to do is that we have to say db helper dot add name. The name is going to be this name variable. Okay, and then we have to, you know, move to the next page. So I have navigator dot of context dot push replacement. The new route is going to be material page route, and we take a context and we return home page. Okay, so there you go. Now we are on our home page. Let's save this, and now let's go back to our home, main dot, and here I'm going to call my splash. Now I have to go to my splash page, and here I have to make sure that I check a couple of things that I needed to check, you know, just things that I told you earlier. So all right, we are going to name this function as get settings. So I'm going to have a future get settings. Okay, and this will be again asynchronous. So basically, as soon as this is built, we are going to call the init state. Come on. Now in the init state, all that I have to do is to just, you know, simply call this get settings, and this will grab all the settings that we need. So in my get settings, what I basically have here is I have to first get a name and check if a name exists or not. So we have a string that can be null, because, you know, it's not always mandatory that we are going to have a name. So the name is going to come from await. And again, we need a db helper instance here too. So we have db helper, and that's my db helper there. So name is going to come from db helper dot get name. And this is the mistake that I made first time. I actually forgot this return statement, and I was wondering why this is not working. So I'm glad that I have that here. Anyway, so to say that if the name is not equal to null, which means there is a name, I can basically send the user to home screen. Else if the name is null, well, you have to go to the add name page. So if the name is null, go to add name page. If the name is not null, go to home screen. Let's come on, home page. Yep. And then we have add name. Let's save this. Okay. And now let's restart this and let's see what do we get. So in my init state, I have to actually call this get settings. Okay. And then let's rebuild this, and now let's see what we get. Okay, we go to get name. I'm saying my name is Prince. Let's click on next, and now I have here, if I add some value here, let's say some 1200, let's click on just add, and okay, we have this page. Pretty nice. Okay, the only difference, what I want to show here is that if I rebuild this application, we are going to come to this home page directly because we have added a name. Okay, now let's move forward. Let's start adding couple more things here. So once that we have name, we have to actually go to home page, and we have to make sure that in our home page we show the same name that the user has added. Right now, as you can see, this is going to be a static value. So let's keep scrolling down, and here, as you can see, we have this welcome Prince. This is basically static. I want this to be dynamic. So for that, what I'm going to do is that here I'm going to have late shared preferences, which will be, let's just say, preferences. Okay, in my init state, where's my init state? All right, we don't have an init state. We first have a function which will be get preference, and this function is basically going to be asynchronous, and this will make sure that this preference is set with an actual shared preference instance. So we have shared preference dot get instance, and this is going to run in init state. So I'm going to do here, I'm going to say something like get preference. So this is going to make sure that we are going to have an instance, a shared preference instance in this preference. Okay, we're going to do other things too in here. We are going to do that later on. Right now we have these preferences here. So by the time this computation is completed, we are going to grab an instance here, and this is going to come from preferences dot get string by the key of name. So there you have this. Okay, let's actually rebuild this because we need that to be in the init state, and now we have Prince. If you clean the data, you can change your name, and you can see this is going to be reflected accordingly. Now moving on forward, we have added names and everything. I want to add a settings page here where you can change name, where you can enable bio auth, and you can also clean the entire data. But before that, let's actually do something else. In my lib, we are going to add another file, which is going to be models / this is going to be transaction underscore model dot. So we have a transaction model. So whatever data we grab from the database is going to stay in this transaction model, so that we can easily retrieve it and use it. So well, we have a class which is going to be transaction model. In this class we have a final integer value, which is the amount. Okay, then we have a date time value, which is basically the date. Okay, then we have a final string value, which is basically going to be the note. Then we have another final string value, which is going to be the type of the expense. And well, we have transaction model, and this is going to be this dot amount. Then we have this dot date, then we have this dot note, and then we have this dot type. So this is our simple transaction model right here. In my home page, as you can see, when we grab all this data, okay, I think here when you see we have db helper dot fetch, it's going to return this data. This is not something that I want now. Now I want this to return a list of this transaction model data. So in my home page itself, I think, yep, here itself I'm going to get set up a function. We have a future which is going to be a list of transaction model, and this is going to be fetch. This is going to be asynchronous, and here I'm just asking user to fetch. Okay, is there some error? Okay, that's okay. So I'm saying if now I need a box here, so we need a late instance of box 2. So just as I have shared preferences here, I'm going to say late box which is going to be this box. And come on, and then in my init state I have to simply say after this get reference box is equal to await. And okay, I don't actually need await here, it can simply be hive.box. So we have hive dot box, and my box name was money, if you remember from the main dot. So there, now we have a box here. So I have to simply say that if box dot values dot is empty, which means there are no values, else we have some value here. So if the box dot value dot is empty, we are going to simply return future, and then we have future dot value, which is going to be an empty array. Or if there are values, we are basically going to say that we have a list of transaction model items. So we have a list of transaction, come on, TRAN, transaction model, which is going to be items. Okay, and then we are going to build the list from the data. So we have box dot to map, so we are going to get a map, and then for the values I'm going to basically say for each element. Right now let me show you something. I'm going to say just print the element. Okay, and I'm simply going to say return this list of items. Okay, because we need to return something. Okay, let's save this, and just in my init state let's call fetch. Let's rebuild the application. Let me show you what are the result that we are going to get here. So you see we have amount, date. So this is basically what our element is. So I'm simply going to say items dot add. We're going to add a transaction model, and hey, what do we give our transaction model? We give amount, date, note, and type. So amount is going to come from element dot amount, and this has come to be this this need to come as an integer. Then we need a element, come on, and then we need a date, and this has to come as a date time. Then we simply need node and type. So that's not very hard. We have to simply just say element and then note, and then we have to simply say element and then type. Okay, I think we are good here. So this is how we are going to have a list of items that we are going to return. Now what we have to do is that in our future builder, instead of calling that fetch, we have to call this fetch. So let's go all the way down here. And alright, not dbhelper.fetch, just fetch. Save it. The problem is that we don't need a map here. We need a list of transaction model. Okay, let's save this. Again, we are going to get a lot of error. This one, let's just ignore this for some time. Let's go bottom. Here it's going to say, hey, what are you sending me here? I'm just going to say that it's going to accept a map. So I'm going to say just I'm sending you this map. And here this thing is again going to be snapshot.data.index. So instead of doing this, I'm going to say that you are going to be just empty element. Okay, save this. We are going to get some issues. Not a problem right now. Let's first go all the way down here. Okay, let's start solving them one by one. We have get total balance. Okay, and the get total balance is basically expecting a map of entire data, something that we can't send now. Okay, so we have to basically send this a list of transaction model, which will be entire data. So I'm going to just basically grab this from here, and then for my where's this get total expense, instead of saying map of entire data, jet we have a list of transaction model, which is going to be my entire data here. Okay, so it's very simple now. Instead of mapping this entire data, I can simply just do a for loop here. So let's actually set this thing up here. I'm saying for in, so for every data, so for transaction model, come on, so for transaction model data in entire data, we are going to just play with each and every data item right now. Basically saying that if data dot date dot month is going to be same as today dot month. Okay, now we are going to check if it's income or if it's expense. So we have if data dot type is equal to income, Then we have to basically add this as an income, else we have to add this as an expense. We have done the drill. We know what we have to do. We have to basically just grab this. Actually, let me just type this, it will be better. So I have to say total balance plus is equal to data dot amount. Okay, and then I have to say total income plus is equal to data dot amount. Okay, else if it's an expense, then I have to say total balance minus is equal to data dot amount, and then total expense plus is equal to data dot amount. Let's save this, and now we have one save here. Let's go all the way down here, and now we can actually send this data. Let's save this, and I think we are good. We still have a problem with this. Well, we will solve that here. This is solved for now, and we are good with that. Now let's actually go all the way down here. Let's solve this problem. So here it's again far simple. All that we need here is that we have to send this data, right? So instead of saying map of data at index, I'm going to say transaction model data at index is going to be this particular data. So let's actually remove both of them. Okay, let's actually save this, and here it's basically says that we need this to be transaction model. Okay, once this is a type transaction model, instead of using type in this, we have to basically say dot type, and here instead of using amount, we have to say dot amount. This is again going to be the same. Let's rebuild this, and okay, now this is all looks very good to me. So this one thing is done here. Next, I want this card to be little different here than the way they are. So as you can see here, we have income tile and we have expense tile. So let's just start designing them one by one. Let's go back to our income tile here, and in income tile I want to add a couple of things. First of all, remember, as I said, we are going to add an option to delete this on long press. But before that, we are going to format this data. I'm going to show the date. I'm going to show the note here, so that user can access this easily. So below this value, I want to show the note. So I'm going to just wrap this text with a column, and this right here is going to be a note. Now I obviously need note for that, so I'm going to go all the way up here, and I'm saying that hey, in my income tile, okay, I'm grabbing note. So I'm going to basically just copy this, and I'm going to paste the note here. So we have $note. Okay, let's save this. Now we have some note. Obviously I don't want this to be 24 and everything, so not this and not this, and this is basically going to have a different color. So the color will be colors dot gray and dark gray. So let's save this, and this is how this note is going to look here. Okay, I don't think I need a string interpolation here, so let's remove this and this. Let's save this, and now this is my expense for my note. Now here in my income, I actually want to put up the date time. All right, so for that, I'm going to go all the way up here. I'm going to wrap this row with another column, and after this row, I'm going to have some text here, which is going to be my date time. So I'm going to just grab this particular note here. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it here. Okay, let's save this, and this is how it's going to look. I'm going to give this a padding. Okay, so wrap this up with padding, and this is going to be 16 from all sides. Let's save this. Okay. Now in this column, I'm going to give the cross-axis alignment to be cross-axis alignment dot end. So now this is at this end, and here in this column, in this row, I have to say that the cross-axis alignment will be cross-axis alignment dot start, so that this is actually at start. Okay, so basically this is on the top here, and in this column I have a row, and then I have this padding. Then in here it actually has to be 6. Okay, now we have income with some expense, and this is the expense that we are talking about. Now since this has to be date time, I have to actually send a date time here. So as in here in my expense tile or in income tile of this note, I also want date time. So the date time is going to be this current date, something that we're not sending in here. So I have to say we have to send data at index dot date. Let's save this. Let's go to income tile again, and here instead of showing this note, we're going to basically do something like date dot month, and then we have date dot day. Let's see how it looks. So okay, let's actually make this data dot day. This will be date dot month. Let's save this, and now we have 23/12. I want this to be December. Okay, so if you go to add a transaction, you see here we have a list of months. I'm going to copy this list of month. I'm going to come back to my home page. I'm going to paste it all the way right here, and then we're basically going to use that. Okay, so now in my income tile here, as you can see, we have this. So instead of calling this entire stuff, I'm going to use this as a key for months. So in my months list, I'm going to use this, and this has to be -1 because months start from 0, while this date is going to start giving me month from 1. So now it's going to be 23 December. Okay, now I like this. All right, 23 December, whatever the date is, you are going to see that whatever the income of 1200 on 22nd December looks pretty good to me. The same has to be done for expense tile too. So let's go there. Now in my expense tile, what I want here is simply date time, which is going to be date. This is going to have an error here, so we have to basically go all the way up down here up, and we have to save this. Now let's go back to expense tile. After this value, we are going to wrap this with a column. We are going to have this text, below this text we are basically going to have the note. So what we have note here. The difference is that we don't need any of this, we just need some color, which will be colors. It's basically same. Let me just set this up pretty quickly. First of all, let me just add a transaction. So we have 100 as an expense. So let's add. Now we are going to have an expense tile. So let me quickly add this up. Now here we have an expense. Also, one more thing that I wanted to do here is that, as you can see, we have this list view.builder, and then actually want to just give this some styling here. Sorry, give this some spacing here. So after this list view, I'm going to give this a sized box with a height of some 50.0, so that this add button looks, below. Let's save this. Now you can scroll up to here. Let's make this 60, and it's going to look good. Okay, there. So this is how it looks now. Now moving forward, first of all, we have rendered something moot, which means, useless. So in my DB helper, as you can see, we don't need this fetch now. Let's remove this. Let's save this. Let's go back to home page, and here, as you can see, we now have to make sure that we have our chart, So right here, when we are calling this function to render the chart, let's actually call this. All right, let's go to get plot points. The only difference is that this has to now be, a list of transaction model. One issue that we have right now here is that, if you check at the earlier application, if you add, date after, it's not going to be sorted. So first, if I add for 23 and then I add for 12 December, it's going to show a very weird chart, something that we don't actually want. So what I want here is to return a sorted list of data. So let's do that. So here we have an empty data set. Instead of, doing this stuff, let's do something else right here. So first of all, I'm going to create a list of temporary data set. I'm going to call this as a list of temp data set. This is going to be empty. Okay, this is first going to generate plot points for all the data that we have for this particular month, and then we are going to sort this. So I'm simply saying that for in, so I'm going to say for transaction model, let's say data in entire data. What I have here is that if this item, or let's say if this data dot date dot month is today dot month, and the type is expense, because we are going to render chart only for expense. So we have data dot type is equal to expense is expense. Then I'm going to say temp dataset dot add this particular data. All right, so now that we have a list of expense of this particular month, I'm going to say temp dataset dot sort, and we are going to sort for two values of a and b. So for two immediate elements a and b, what I want to do is that a dot date dot day, and then I'm going to say compare that. So we have compare to b dot date, not d, basically b dot date dot day dot day. Okay, this is going to sort, compare a and b, and this is going to sort it in ascending order. So basically 1st December will be before, and then 2nd, 3rd, 4th, doesn't matter when you add that. Now we have to actually return a list of this particular FL spot. So what I'm saying here is that after we have a sorted list, I'm going to say let's say for in, so we have for and temp dataset dot length. What I want to do here is that I have to say dataset dot add, and this is going to be FL spot. Okay, FL spot is going to have X and Y. X is going to be day, Y is going to be amount. So it's going to be temp dataset at ith index, then just date dot day, and then to double. In the same way we have Y, which will be temp dataset at ith index, and we simply need the amount here. I'm going to set set this to double to. It basically asks for double values, that's why I have to set this to double to, and there you go. Okay, so let's save this, and now we have to return this data set that again we are returning. That's completely fine. Let's go all the way down here, and here instead of doing this we are going to do something again, what we had earlier. So snapshot.data. Let's save this, and now we should have a chart. Let's click again. Let's say 120 as an expense on 7th itself. Let's click on add, and there you go. Now this is sorted. So even do I say that, hey, actually I spent 100 on 1st December itself, this is going to be sorted. So we have 1, then we have 7, then we have 21. So this is what I wanted here, and I think it looks pretty good. Okay, 1, 7, 23. So yep, great. We have these things up and sorted. Here I added something called as delete. So let's add that right now. Well, so now that we have added everything. The one more thing that I have to add here is basically delete. Also, as you can see, this says recent expenses. This is not expenses, this is basically transactions, because I'm also going to show you income. So recent transactions. Okay, now let's go to, let's say, any income style or expense style. Let's go to expense style for some time here. I'm going to wrap this container with a visit, which is going to be inkwell. So here on long press, I'm going to give you an option to delete. So I think I already have a visit here. Okay, I don't have here. Let's create a directory. I will name this as widgets. Okay, and I'm going to put a simple visit here, which is going to be confirm dialog. It's very simple. We are simply going to show a dialog. We will ask yes or no with our title and content, and it will return whether the user has pressed yes or the user has pressed no. So in widgets we are going to have a plus of confirm. In our widgets we are going to add a confirm dialog dot. Now paste the content here. As you can see, we have to send context, title, content. It's going to show this. If the user presses no, it's going to return false, or it's going to return true. Let's save this. This I don't want. Let me delete this. Okay, now here in my home page, whenever somebody long presses on this, I want to show them this particular model, and if the answer is yes, we are going to delete the data at particular index. So I'm going to do something like, we have a boolean answer, and this could be null, because user can basically dismiss the drawer too. So I have to say await so confirm dialog context. Our title is basically going to be warning, and the content is going to be this, do you want to delete this record? All right, let's save this. It has to be synchronous. Okay, now let's long press and says, hey, do you want to delete this record, yes or no? Right, so if the answer is yes, I want to delete it. Okay, so if the answer is yes, we want to delete it, else we don't want to do anything else. Okay, so let's save this. Now I have to make sure that this is not null. So if the answer is not equal to null, and if the answer is yes, then we want to basically delete the record. Now we have to delete data at particular index. For that we again need the index 2. So let's do an int of index here. Now we have to go all the way up here, and we have to make sure that we are sending the index 2. So yep, this is going to return the index. Great, let's go here, and now we have the index 2. We have to actually go to our DB helper, because here, since we are sending the index, the DB helper will have a function where you can just pass the index, and it's going to delete the data at that particular index. So let's go to DB helper, and here we have, we have future add data. So we have future delete data. It's going to take an index, and here we are basically going to say, we are saying await box dot delete add particular index, which we are sending here. Save this, and yep, we have our delete add data function ready. In our home page, we already have a DB helper instance, I guess. Yep, we have. So let's go to our income expense tile here, and if the answer is yes, we are going to do DB helper dot delete data at this particular index. Okay, let's save this, and let's call basically set state here, and this will rebuild everything. Okay, so we have an expense of 320, and I'm going to say that, hey, this 120, I'm going to delete this, and there you go. We now have a balance of 1000. We have expense of 200 only, and this is our chart. We spent 100 on 1st, and then we spent 100 on 24th, I guess, or 23rd. All right, so this is what we have. You can easily delete any expense, and then this will delete the record, and this will update everything accordingly. Pretty good, right? Next thing that we have to do is to basically add the same thing at our I think income too. So let's do this. Let's wrap this with an inkwell. So a visit, which is going to be inkwell, basically have one long press. The only thing that we need here is index. So I have to say, hey, send me an index. Then we have to go just here, and we have to say, hey, return the index. Now this can cause one issue here that I want to address. So basically, when you delete data at index, it can actually have one such index where there is no data. So what this is going to be is that this is going to be wrapped up in a try catch block. So we have a try catch block. So try to get a transaction model data at this particular index. Okay, so this is my data. So try to do this. If there is any error, just simply return a container. Okay, something that is not visible to us, so it's going to look pretty good. We have an error right here. I don't know what I did wrong. Let's see. Anyway, so here when you delete data at particular index, at this given index, there might not be any data. So we're going to give this a try catch block. Okay, and so I'm saying that, hey, try to put this data, or if there's no data, we are going to simply return a container. Thus we won't have any anomaly. So return a container. Okay, let's save this, and now we have solved that too. We can also delete income. Yes, and now I have an expense of -100. Delete this too, and now we have no values, right? So this looks pretty good to me, right? So see, you can just keep adding data here. As you can see, we have expense, income, expense, and there I have an income of 4000. I did an expense of 4000. I wasn't calculating. This is really a great coincidence, and this is my very sorted graph. So on 8th I spent 2000, on 15th I spent 200, on 17th I spent 600, and then on 23rd I spent 1200. So this is all the data. Remove something, and then we have the sorted data accordingly. So I think I have this. This looks pretty good to me. There are a couple of features that we may want to implement, but I'm going to do that in the next video. I mean, this video has actually come out pretty good. It's almost 51 minutes that I've been recording this, and I'm going to leave it as it is. We may do another version. Actually, for local auth, you can actually check my repository. So you can actually check this repository for updated code. I'm going to wrap this up and put it up here as Money Manager YouTube 02. And if you want, you can actually check code for this bio auth I have added here. Actually, instead of adding bio auth in this app itself, either I can do a third video where we are adding a bio auth, or I'm going to do a separate video where we're only going to add bio auth, not to this application, a general tutorial itself. Anyway, this have been 1 hour tutorial from my side, and we have added a couple of features. We have made this code better, and I hope in the next video we're going to do a lot more than this. We are going to make this code a lot more better. We are going to add so many more stuff here. So that's pretty much it from my side in this video. I'll catch you up soon in the next video talking more about Flutter, coding and whatnot. Till then, keep coding, keep loving, keep sailing, and peace.